Listen, you may think you already know Rita McNeil, perhaps as the gentle, soft-spoken host of Christmas specials or the matron of the Tea Room. But a show coming to Neptune Theatre this summer sheds new light on her legacy. In fact, Rita was a fierce feminist in the 70s. In fact, so fierce that the RCMP kept a file on her. Lindsay Kyte is one of the creators of Dear Rita, a musical celebration of Cape Breton's First Lady of Song. Lindsay joins me now in Studio A, just in time to get, roped into this mad debacle.
I'm in.
Okay,
totally
great.
in.
Actually, we'll talk to your people.
Rehearsal this weekend.
Tell us about Rita in the 70s and this activism, where that was happening, what it looked like, and how she came to get involved.
Yeah, well, she had moved at about age 19 to Toronto, and a friend said, do you want to go to a meeting of the Toronto Women's Caucus? And she said, sure, but what will I wear? She had no idea what the women's movement was. So this friend took her, and it was like her brain started to blow up. She had never encountered women thinking the way they did, speaking the way they did. She said the women back home, they were strong, but they didn't have a voice outside of the home.
Right.
And so they kind of put her on the spot. She didn't know what to say. They said, well, you've got to speak up. And she said, what if I just write a song? And they were like, great, write a song. She had never written a song. So she decided to just go home and try. And it came to her really naturally. So she started to become the voice of the women's movement. She had this album of songs. The songs are controversial. They are good. And she was singing at rallies and conventions. And the RCMP was very suspicious of her, so they had a file on her.
Really?
Yeah.
What did they think she was going to do? Do we know? Like, what was the suspicion?
She was getting the women thinking. That's what was going on.
That was the danger.
Yeah.
Do you have any of these protest songs? Are they in the show? Are they in Dear Rita?
Yeah. Oh,
are they really?
Yes. They're so fun to sing. It makes me want to just kick a door down. Yeah,
can you do a bit of
right now?
Is that even the lyrics, just the lyrics even?
Yeah.
Because I know you're not warmed up.
I'm not warmed up. Yeah.
Yep.
One of the lyrics is, men have been dominant, for we do read throughout the course of our history, have we come a long way under male domination? Won't you take a look at the whole damn nation? That's a Rita McNeil song.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And it got her into trouble.
Yes, it did.
What's the journey from Rita of the 70s, like that Rita, to the Rita that, you're flying on your own?
Oh, well, in a nutshell, when she started writing these songs, she became part of the 70s sort of hippie songwriter movement. So all of a sudden she's at the Riverboat Coffee House with Joni Mitchell, Big Mama Thornton, Bob Dylan. Yeah. These are her ilk. She's performing with all of these folks. And some part of her, though, thought that she should have a traditional life. So she got married, she had kids, and then, as it does for any artist, sort of that voice of divine discontent started to bubble up. And who she was in her marriage wasn't true to who she really was.
Right.
And so these things sort of started to want their stories told again. And she went into a depression. She started drinking. All of this is in her book, I Don't Tell Tales, that she didn't tell about herself. Yes. She moved back to Cape Breton because her mother was dying. And back in Cape Breton, her family just kicked her butt and said, take this seriously or don't, but get on your feet.
The music.
Yep. And so she just started again from scratch in Cape Breton in the 80s and built her career from there. And it was a journey, and one where she had to just blaze these trails that women hadn't blazed before, such as starting her own record label.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah. She was applying to be on big record labels. They weren't taking her, saying nasty things about the way she looked. So she and her partner Noreen started Lupin Records right at her kitchen table. And the thing I like about the image of the lupin is, I'm from Cape Breton, and people either love lupins and they think they're beautiful, or they hate them and they think they're weeds. But how you look at the lupin and what you think of it depends on the viewer, right? But the lupins don't care. The lupins are going to grow no matter what you think of them. So,
and is that where the name came from and what the ethos was?
I would assume so.
Yeah.
Yes.
You get to meet Rita, right?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
How old were you? You must have been quite young when you met her, did you?
No, it was only in 2012. I had written a play called Tompkinsville with Ian Sherwood.
Oh, okay.
And I was about the cooperative movement. And Chris Corrigan was the guitar player for that. Chris Corrigan was also Rita's guitar player. So he said, I was living in Toronto at the time. He said, Rita and I are going to do this gig. Do you want to come? And I said, oh, yeah. I thought I was just going to watch Rita in concert. After it was over, as we were applauding, Chris dragged me into her dressing room. I was mentally unprepared to meet Rita McNeil as a Cape Bretoner. I was starstruck. And she came down those stairs and she looked at me and she said, you must be Lindsay. And I could only speak in vowel sounds. I was like, And she said, what you're doing is so important. You tell your stories. Tell the stories of where we're from. We need that out there. Someone needs to hear it. Somebody has a wound in the shape of your words. Like, she just gave me this pep talk. And I couldn't
Did she say a wound in the shape of your words?
It was just so beautiful, everything she said. I don't know how my brain remembered it because I was just absolutely awestruck. But I put that pep talk in the show.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And I understand you had you're a co-creator, obviously, of this show. Mm-hmm. How did this show, other than this great meeting in Toronto with Rita McNeil, how did it come to be?
It was Chris Corrigan, the guitar player, who, after Rita passed, she passed in 2013. 2018, he said, Rita's son Wade is looking for somebody to write a show about Rita. Would like a woman from Cape Breton, so I put your name forward, which is, if you're a Cape Bretoner and you get this opportunity, you're like, wow. So I made an appointment to go meet Wade, her son, at the tea room. Random day during Celtic Colours. And when I got there, the server said, oh, this is the last bowl of soup of the season. I said, oh, okay. And Wade and I had about a 2-hour meeting. He told me some of the conditions he wanted for the show, such as nobody does an impression of his mother.
Right.
And I said, great. He said, and I want all new arrangements. I want this music to reach new audiences, new generations. And I was like, hell yeah, this is amazing.
Wow. Yeah.
And we had a hug. He gave me some tea room tea. They locked the door. And neither of us knew it at the time, but that was the last day the tea room would be open forever. So it was born the day the tea room closed forever.
It's quite auspicious.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Really, when you think about it.
Yeah.
And now Rita it's funny because she was a feminist kind of warrior.
Yes.
And then obviously, an icon here in Nova Scotia, but she's coming into a third iteration, or enjoying, I shouldn't say coming into, but enjoying a third iteration as a queer icon.
She is.
How and when did that start?
Well, it's in researching her, I was seeing the emergence of her songs in queer communities. And so when I was developing the show, I had her book. And in her book, at the start of it, it says, there's some stories I tell, and these are the way I tell my stories. And so anyway, and Rita's partner, Noreen, was always around. That's who she was. She didn't hide who she loved.
Yeah.
And when I was writing the show, I was getting kind of pressure from some people to have a pride parade on stage and things like that. So I asked my friend Richie Wilcox, who is a queer theatre creator from Cape Breton, how do I handle this? And he said, we'll just have Noreen be around like she was. Like, why do we have to make a big deal out of this? And I thought, okay, that's what we're going to do here. And he also said, if you are from the queer community and you hear her songs, it's in the lyrics and it's beautiful. So it's sort of been an emergence, and people will say after the show, I needed to hear that, especially queer women who are in their 60s and 70s are coming up and like they can't talk, they're crying.
Yeah.
So it's really, really beautiful.
She held that candle for them.
Yeah.
Rita was tremendously successful. Mm-hmm. Her music has resonated around the world. Mm-hmm. Why do you think that is? What is it? What resonated with everyone? We've talked about a few specific, groups and movements, but she's kind of universal. People feel very protective of her and love Rita McNeil. What is that?
Yeah.
What are they responding to?
I think it's because she went through so much. She was tortured by the media at the height of her career. She was bullied when she was young, and she shows up on stage vulnerable and authentic. And people just go, I see myself in you. When I was researching, I saw letters from all over the world, fans from all over the world. And I'm going, why does a 70-year-old man in India find his story in the songs of a 42-year-old woman from Cape Breton who's a mother of two. But she described it when she wrote her lyrics as having a musical nosebleed. She just took things in, and the lyrics came out, and people just saw themselves. And it still happens at the end of the show. When we played in Cape Breton at the Savoy Theatre, it seats 728 people. 728 people stayed to hug me. And
wow, because they wanted to hug Rita.
Because they wanted to hug Rita,
yeah.
Which, I'll soak up all that love, my
sure.
goodness. But and to tell me how they connect to her music. And people of all different identities. So it was wonderful to see, and to see the power this music still has.
I've never met the woman. I grew up on her music, like I think so many of us here. I always have felt this instinctive, I don't know, like my perception of her is of great kindness.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that, like, from the people who know her, is that something that is...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When this premiered at the Charlottetown Festival, and the fellows backstage who've been with the festival for many years, the technicians, they would put their hands over their hearts talking about her. And they said when she came here, she always made us a cup of tea first, and nobody ever does that for us. So they never forgot. And then they said, don't screw this show up, Lindsay. So
wow. There you go.
Yeah.
So show opens at the end of the month.
Mm-hmm.
You told us, or opens, at the end of the month. Mm-hmm. You told us about Wade, like when he came to you, the conditions.
Yes.
What can people expect when they come in? What are they going to see with Dear Rita?
I hope that just their hair is blown back, because the arrangements are all new. So Mike Ross, he was in the Jive Kings years ago. He's from Soul Pepper Theatre. He's a PE Islander. He did these arrangements that the harmonies are beautiful. And you're going to see the music in a new way, because it's going to be in the context of her story. This is not a tribute show. This is something new. You're going to see 5 people playing Rita at once, which sounds confusing. I tell you, it does work. You'll get it very quickly. And you'll see it from different identities. So the people playing Rita, I'm one of them. Ian Sherwood, who's a singer-songwriter, is another. Yeah. It's her words are the container, but we're pouring ourselves into this. So I think you're going to learn a lot about how she stood up for herself in subtle ways, in big ways, and how she blazed the trail for women and for Nova Scotia artists. There are a lot of people who say, I owe it all to Rita. Mm-hmm.
Viva Rita.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Lindsay, so nice to meet you, and chapeau.
Yeah.
Lindsay Kyte is co-creator of and performer in Dear Rita. It is coming to Neptune July 30th through August 25th. And we're going to play one of Rita's early feminist tunes now from 1975's Born a Woman. Here's War of Conditioning.
When she was a baby girl, they gave her a doll, and they gave him a motor car and a tiny soldier boy, and they sent them out in the day sun to play, and what they'd become would take many years to make. In the war of conditioning, where they never use a gun, they only use people who fit in the plans, and those by the wayside have a long road to go. It's just not proper to stray from the fold. Now they took away her doll and they gave her a home, and they took away his motor car and they gave him a gun, and they sent them out in the day sun to run, running away from what they had become. In the war of conditioning, where they never use a gun, they only use people who fit in the plans, and those by the wayside have a long road to go. It's just not proper to stray from the fold. Well, they took away her home and they gave her a rocking chair, and they took away his gun and they gave him a walking cane, and they sent them out in the day sun to mourn, mourn for a freedom that they'd never known. In the war of conditioning, where they never use a gun, they only use people who fit in the plans, and those by the wayside to stray from the fold. It's just not proper to stray from the fold.
The inimitable Rita McNeil, War of Conditioning, from her 1975 album Born a Woman.
This is CBC.
Radio program you're listening